Hello, Instagrammers. How are you doing? I hope you are enjoying your Sunday so far, and I am here to make your Sunday even more better. So, I'm sure you know that we are running this Legends Week, and we have been bringing to you all the beautiful and successful legends from the Indian salon industry. And today is the concluding day of our week, and we have with us an international personality who's looked upon by the entire world of hairdressing as the god of long hairdressing. Yes, guys, you guessed it right. It is Patrick Cameron joining us from the UK on our Legends Week. So, we have a couple of minutes before he joins us. So, I would suggest if you have your friends and family and fellow hairdressers, salon owners, whoever wishes to see him live in interaction with me, please call them, message them, ask them to be online and join us in this live session with Patrick Cameron. So, as we an introduction of me again, I am Kanishka Ramchandani, the editor of Professional Beauty India. And if you have any questions for Patrick Cameron, I'm sure you'll have loads of them. Please leave them in the comment section below, and we'll take them up, time permitting. So now it's time for me to look at Patrick, start this live session with him. Hi.
Hello, just a second. I'm turning the camera around.
All right. Hi, Patrick.
Hi.
Hi.
Always these technical hitches, isn't it? It's crazy. You think you have everything right, and then all of a sudden you realize you've got it on the wrong direction.
And I was wondering what happened to Patrick. Did he undergo a plastic surgery? All of a sudden, he's looking so different.
Very
All
different.
right, Patrick, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Very, very well. How are you?
I'm good too, thank you. So how are things in the UK?
Things in the UK are good. We've got a big announcement today from Boris Johnson, who's going to be talking about the next steps forward. So they've been talking about perhaps lessening the lockdown, but you know, at the moment, who knows?
Absolutely. So all the salons and spas are still closed there?
So all the salons and spas are still closed. In Central Europe, in Germany and other places, we're seeing them open up again. But as of course you know, they're opening up in very different situations now, so that social distancing can be taken in, PPE, personal protection equipment, all sorts of things are going in place now that have the industry in a real confusion, as I'm sure. How are things in India?
So in India, yes, we are in lockdown. There are a couple of states that have allowed the salons to open because they are entirely COVID-19 free. But by and large, we are still under a strict lockdown.
Yeah, yeah. And I think this is the new normal for the moment. You know, I think we're going to see, I think we're looking at a very different world at the moment. And I think really we have to be prepared that this new normal will take a long time. You know, we're not anywhere near the end of it. You know, we're still in the midst of it.
Yes. And I just hope that the salon industry bounces back, not just in India, but across the world. And yeah, make do with the new normal.
Well, as you know, I mean, there's been so much press, not only in the hairdressing press, but just in the consumer press about people and their hair. And it's quite interesting, isn't it? Hair is a great leveler. You know, no matter whether you're a doctor, a physician, a scientist, a stockbroker, a banker, a teacher, it's all about hair. And hair is about well-being. It's about mental health. How do you see yourself? And particularly here in Europe, where hair is cut, often quite short and styled, people are really struggling with that situation. In India, of course, you're much luckier because so many people have long hair.
So when the salons do reopen, you are going to have a blast because everyone will come back with long hair.
Yes. Well, of course, we're saying hashtag the new short hair's long, you know, long hair.
Yeah.
You know, I think the salons are going to come. I make a prediction. My prediction is this. I think salons and coffee shops are going to be amongst the first to open because people truly want great coffee.
That's right. Great coffee and a great haircut. Okay, so Patrick, let us start with our session. This is called the Legends Week. We have been running the Legends Week this entire week, and today is our concluding session. So we have brought in a lot of Indian legendary hairdressers and salon owners to come and talk to our audience, and you are now the cherry on the cake for us as we conclude this week. So it is fantastic to have you with us, because you sharing your story is not just inspirational, but it's going to be a motivation for people out here.
Thank you.
Because now the way the hairdressing industry is, it's not just a career option or a vocational option. It's something that people want to go big with. So when they look at you, when they hear your story, I'm sure they're going to be inspired and motivated. So I want to hit the rewind button here now and take you back when you started. So how did hairdressing happen to you exactly? How did hairdressing happen? Was it intentional or accidental?
Accidental. So when I left school, I was always very creative at school. So I was your typical student who was an A for art and creativity and music, and probably a D for mathematics and English and science. So my divide was very high. So it was by accident that I went into a salon. I was working creatively, and I had a couple of jobs when I left school. First of all, I started off playing music, because I've always played the piano since I was about 7 years old. And I had an amazing job in a music shop. And then I got the opportunity to be trained in a department store as a display artist, as a graphic artist, display artist. And that meant that I was doing all of the interior displays, the great big shop displays, the window displays. So it was incredibly creative. And one day I went by a salon in my city, and I had a friend that worked there. And I said to her, I walked in and I said, I don't suppose you could tell me if there's a course that I could do where I could learn, now this is interesting, where I could learn to dress long hair for my mannequins in the shop window, because they all had wigs and I wanted to do the hair. And she, unbeknownst to me, she spoke to her boss. And again, I didn't know this, but her boss was actually one of the top hairdressers in the whole of New Zealand, where I'm from. And the salon I'd gone to had been one of the top salons in New Zealand. But I just happened to know one of my friends that worked there, and that's why I went there. Anyway, long story short, about a day that afternoon, I got a telephone call. So I went to see my friend at lunchtime. That afternoon, I had a telephone call saying, could I go and see her after work the next day? And so I went to see her, and she was an incredible lady. She is an incredible lady called Lindsay Loveridge. And she said to me, Patrick, are you interested in dressing long hair? Are you interested in hairdressing? And I said to her, well, no, not really. I just wanted to work on long hair for my mannequins. She said, well, I'll tell you what. She said, let me take this mannequin, a puppet. She said, show me what you can do on this mannequin. So I started doing the hair, and the hair grips were flying everywhere. I had them in my mouth. I was doing all sorts of things. But when I finished, I held the hairstyle up very, very proudly. And I said to her, I said, there we go. There it is. She said to me, she looked at it and she laughed. She said, that's very good, Patrick. Would you like to learn how to do it properly? And with that, she offered me an apprenticeship. She offered me an apprenticeship on the spot. And all of a sudden, I was now going to be trained to become a hairdresser.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quite an interesting start. I mean, who would have thought that somebody who dresses stores would land up in hairdressing?
Well, I think also too, creativity always finds a way, to be honest with you.
Absolutely. So how did the whole training period pass? What all did you learn when you were training?
Well, like all hairdressers, I was qualified in cutting and colouring. In New Zealand at the time, it was a City and Guilds apprenticeship. So the apprenticeship was 8,000 hours. And 8,000 hours translates into roughly 3.5 years. Now, because I was a creative person, I managed to get an accreditation of 1,000 hours. Because by the time I started hairdressing, I was 21, almost 22. So that I had, honestly, I loved it. I fell in love. I fell in love with everything. I went from being a student whose average mark at school was in the 30s, and in hairdressing, my average mark in hairdressing was in the 80s and 90s. And when I graduated with one of the highest marks in New Zealand.
That's wonderful. So you should not be deterred by your school or college marks.
You,
It's
yeah.
you find your niche and
Well,
you
it's
go
not
ahead
only
with that.
it's not only finding your niche. If I can give some advice to people there, it's
Yeah.
about, when we go to school, when we're at school, we're asked to learn 5, 6, 7 subjects. We're asked to look at this, and then we've got an hour of this, then we've got an hour of that. And so for me, I found it very hard at school to connect the dots, how to make all this relevant. And I think also too, like a lot of creative people, many creative people, I have a very gentle form of dyslexia. So I can read and write perfectly. There's no problem. I have troubles with my left and right, and sometimes I have troubles processing things. Well, back then I did, when I was a young man or
Yeah.
young boy. And so for me, what I found with hairdressing, even though the apprenticeship was incredibly involved, it was 8,000 hours, and we had to study things like the heart, the vascular system, the circulatory system, the hair, the root, the follicle. But I think for me, what happened was I was able to focus it on one thing, which was hairdressing. So I could bring everything back to one space again. And I found that much easier to learn, being inspired by one thing than trying to be inspired by many things.
Right. So what happened after you finished your apprenticeship?
So after I finished my apprenticeship, I worked in the salon for a couple of years to give my time back. And then at the age of 27, I said, I'm going to England. I said, I love it here in New Zealand. This is my home. This is where my family are from, my friends. I said, but I really, really have this passion inside me to go to England. And I remember my father and mother laughing. They said, Patrick, you've never saved any money in your whole entire life. How are you going to save to get to England? So I started, and 7 months later, I had enough money to travel Europe for 2 months and settle myself in London.
Great. So it's all in your head. Once you decide you have got to do something, you can do it.
I think
Money is
so.
no issue. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Money's no issue, because I think once you focus on what you want, then I think the rest will come with it. And I say this a lot to hairdressers. You've really got to want something, and be careful what you want, because the chances are you may just get it.
Absolutely. So what happened when you landed in England? Did you get a job right away?
So when I landed in England, I went traveling first, because I'd saved up enough money, and I went traveling around Europe for 2 months, and I met some amazing people. I had an incredible time. And so when I came back to London, I didn't have so much money, and I had some friends, so I knew I could stay with them. And so I started looking for jobs, and it was a very unusual time for me, because when I left New Zealand, I was incredibly successful. I was working in the salon. I had clients that would wait for me for up to 7 to 8 months to get an appointment with me. I really was on top of my game in New Zealand. And then I came to London, and of course you've got to sell yourself again. So I remember waiting on the street corners, looking for models, looking for people that I could take into a salon interview and interview for a job.
Right. What the things different in London as opposed to New Zealand? Like,
Well,
was the market different?
It's interesting. It's really interesting. When I came to London, I thought, right, I'm in London. Right, okay, where is it? Where is everything happening? Where is the fashion? Where are people? What's happening? And I think in New Zealand, I'd worked in such a creative salon that by the time I got to London, my expectations were very, very high. And of course, what happens in London, fashion doesn't hit you in the face. Everybody walking down the street isn't a fashion model or a fashion statement. What happens with London, because London is so big and so vast, what happens, you have to absorb London. Once you start to absorb London and you start to live in London as a Londoner, you start to see little areas that have incredible fashion, but you've got to look for them. You know, they're not just there. And so after probably about a year, 2 years, I really started to realize that I was really in the hair fashion capital of the world, because London is very much the hair capital of the world.
Right. So, how long did it take for you to figure out what exactly you want to do? Continue as a hairdresser at some salon, or set up your own space? What was in your mind then?
Well, I think what was interesting, I'll tell you the story, is first of all, I worked in a salon in Mayfair. Then I worked there for about a year, and then I got a job in Camden Town in a salon, and a gentleman called Pierre Alexander, who was a very famous hairdresser at the time. He saw my potential, and so he employed me to perhaps do seminars with him and help him with shows, but also work in the salon. Now, he had just built the salon, and so I started working in the salon, but of course, like all good hairdressers, I became very important to the salon business. So I was working more on clients than I was working on shows and seminars or photographic work. And so after about 8 or 9 months, I could see that this wasn't going to happen. I could see that I was going to end up doing in this salon what I could do in New Zealand. And I thought, if I do the same stuff in London, then I would much sooner be in New Zealand with my family, my friends, and my lifestyle. So I left that job, and just as I was leaving the job, a very large company of 35 salons, bought the salon, and they came to me and they said, Patrick, we'd like to talk to you about a job. We'd like to make you our artistic director. Now, I had just worked in 2 salons. So I'd worked in Mayfair and I'd worked in Camden Town. And I realized I wasn't getting anywhere. So I said to the people, thank you, but no thank you. I think I'm going to do it by myself. I'm going to work on a portfolio. I'm going to go and see magazines. I'm going to go and see photographers. I'm going to go and do television. I'm going to go and do all sorts of things. And I said to them, I'm also going away on holiday to Germany for a month. Anyway, they said to me, Patrick, think about what the offer is. We're offering you the artistic director of 35 salons. So anyway, they said, have a meeting with us as soon as you get back. So I sorted out a date with them. And so I went for my holiday. I had a wonderful time. I didn't think about work at all. On the flight coming back, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I've got an interview tomorrow with this company. So, and honestly, this is true. This is, as God is my witness, I grabbed a serviette from the aeroplane and my pen, and I wrote down what I wanted. I said I wanted, now this is interesting. I said I wanted £2.50 an hour. Now £25 an hour, £25 an hour. Now at the time, I'd only been earning about £1.20, £1.90 an hour. So I wanted £25 an hour. I wanted an apartment in London. I wanted endless holidays if I wanted holidays. Yeah. I wanted, what else was I wanted? It was just a list of crazy things, because to be honest with you, I didn't want the job. So I went to the meeting, and it was very formal in a beautiful hotel, and I wrote everything out. This was before computers. So I wrote it all out, and I sat down in this beautiful hotel with this general manager, and I presented him with my piece of paper. And he looked at the piece of paper, and he took out a beautiful Mont Blanc pen from his lapel, and he looked at it and he burst out laughing. He said to me, click, tick, 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 you start tomorrow.
Wow.
And with that, I went, oh my God, I start tomorrow. But he said to me, he said, Patrick, but if it doesn't work out, we'll say goodbye to you after 1 month. And I laughed and I said to him, oh, listen, I have to tell you this, please. If you don't work out after 1 month, I'm going to say goodbye to you. Well, that was the beginning of the most wonderful, wonderful adventure that took my life from where I was to where I am today. And after 2 years, we went from 35 salons to 540 salons. I was now the artistic director over the largest hair company in Europe.
Fantastic. So if the time is right and you are in the right spirit, ask for the world and you get it.
I think you have to
Wonderful.
be. I think you have to be open. I think you have to be open. You have to be open to opportunity. And I was open, even though I was laughing and I didn't really want the job. I still went for the interview. I still gave the interview respect. I still gave the interview my passion. I still gave the interview my expertise. Even though in the back of my mind, I didn't want it really, I still was as professional as I could possibly be. And I think that's what they saw. They saw this person that was warm, that was friendly, that was talented, but at the same time, a people's person. You have to like people if you want to succeed in our industry.
Absolutely. So by the time you were managing 500 salons as the artistic director, were you already clear in your head that you wanted to make long hairdressing your niche?
No, not at all. So
when did that happen?
So as artistic director, I was in charge of the senior trainers, and the intermediate trainers, where I would show them the latest haircuts. I would show them the latest color work. I would color, I would cut, and I would do a little bit of long hair. And so because I was a trained hairdresser, I loved cutting. It was my passion, and I loved coloring. So this was very much my focus. And I did a little bit of long hair because I love doing long hair. And anyway, so I started sort of doing haircuts and coloring and a bit of long hair. And I remember I was doing a very big show called the Clothes Show Live. This was in Birmingham. And I thought, because this is for the consumer and not for the hairdressers, this was a consumer show. I thought, I can't do cutting or coloring because it's too professional. It's too intimate. It's hairdressing knowledge. And that's no good for just Mr. and Mrs. Smith coming to the exhibition. So I decided to do long hair. I decided to have 6 beautiful models with long hair that I was going to do. Anyway, this was a show. There was an audience probably of about 5,000 people. They were walking around. It was a big show floor. Everybody was walking around, and I was up on the stage. And I had someone come to me after I did my show, someone I respected a great deal, who was very high up in hairdressing. And he said to me, he said, "Patrick, I've just watched your show." He said, "I have never seen anybody do long hair like that. That should be your passion. That's what you do." And you know what? From that day forward, I realized that he was right. Everything I was doing was always about long hair, even though I was cutting and coloring. And so I turned everything around, where in my seminars I did 2 haircuts, a color, 1 long hair. Then after a few months, I did 3 long hair, 1 haircut, 1 color. Then I did 4 long hair, no color, 1 haircut. Then eventually I went no cut, no color, just long hair. And I was one of the very few hairdressers in the world at that time just doing long hair.
So that means you must be getting a lot of bridal hair to do, because brides like to have long hair. So what is trending there in bridal hairstyles?
Well, trending with bridal hairstyles, I mean, one of the great things with social media now is that so many of your very talented hairdressers there in India, of course, are connected to what is going on. So we're seeing 2 trends, really. We're obviously seeing the trend of very formal, because there are still those brides that like a much formal hairstyle. But we're seeing a lot more of that sort of softer, romantic feeling. And it's really been interesting because I think a lot of our younger clients, a lot of the brides that are in charge of what they want, often want that very romantic, that very soft feeling, as opposed to that very starched, strong look, which is beautiful, I might say, but it's a very different feeling. So with this very romantic, this very soft hairstyling comes very strong techniques, which of course is what I concentrate on in my education, because to create something so soft, you need a really strong foundation if it's going to stay in for the whole day.
Right. Patrick, how does it feel when people and fellow artists call you the god of long hairdressing?
Well, it's always humbling, and it's their words, not mine. But I suppose when you've been in people's psyche, I've been traveling the world for 28 years. 28 years hairdressers, but we're seeing a lot more of that sort of softer, romantic feeling. And it's really been interesting because I think a lot of our younger clients, a lot of the brides that are in charge of what they want, often want that very romantic, that very soft feeling, as opposed to that very starched, strong look, which is beautiful, I might say, but it's a very different feeling. So with this very romantic, this very soft hairstyling comes very strong techniques, which of course is what I concentrate on in my education, because to create something so soft, you need a really strong foundation if it's going to stay in for the whole day.
Right. Patrick, how does it feel when people and fellow artists call you the god of long hairdressing?
Well, it's always humbling, and it's their words, not mine. But I suppose when you've been in people's psyche, I've been traveling the world for 28 years. 28 years hairdressers, and many hairdressers in India have been following me for almost 28 years. From my very first books to then my videos, and then of course my DVDs, and now my USBs. And they've been following me. Every year we've had a collection. Every year people from all over the world hook into these collections. And one of the things I love about India, and I often joke about this is something I often say all over the world, and this is true. I often say India is my spiritual long hair home.
Absolutely. And you've been to India a few times. So how was your experience here with hairdressers?
Love it. Love it. You know, I just love it. I mean, there are so many talented hairdressers out there that are so passionate about what they do. And it's so wonderful to see that these people with this passion have been able to become incredibly successful. You know, I often say this to young hairdressers. Congratulations for choosing the best career in the world, because this career can be whatever you want it to be. You just have to find your passion and share that passion.
Right. So Patrick, you have taken us through all these years of your journey. At what point of time did you realize that there should be a brand Patrick Cameron too?
I think it was the World Hairdressing Congress in London. We're going back probably about 1991, 92, around then. And I remember coming onto stage, and this was my first show, my first big show in London. It was a 2-day event. I was the second to last show on the last day. The second to last show on the last day. And I decided I was going to do just long hair. I decided I was going to be myself. I was going to talk, and I was going to have fun. And most importantly, I was going to educate. I was going to educate and talk and have fun. Now, back then in the early 90s, late 80s, hairdressers didn't talk on stage. Hairdressers didn't show their personality. Hairdressers went on stage, they played very loud music, and they just did hair. Well, I came out on stage. I came dancing out onto stage to ABBA's Dancing Queen, which was so brilliant. I was doing hair, I was laughing, I was putting hair up, I was talking about what I was doing. At the end of that show, this is true, 2,500 people gave me my very first standing ovation. And that was the day that I knew I was on the right road to success. And that was really the day that the Patrick Cameron brand became alive.
Great. And since then, it's been going places. You are an absolute live wire on stage. I've seen you perform, and it's amazing. Be it hairdressing, be it upstyling, or be it hosting a show, you give it your 100% and with absolute passion. I just love that about you. So speaking of hosting shows, you have been hosting the Vella Trend Awards. So how did your association with Vella come about, and how did you land up on their stage?
So, okay, my association with Wella started very, very early. So when I became the artistic director over the largest hair company in Europe, Wella was also was their distributor. So Wella was their product provider. And
Okay.
I'll never forget, Wella sort of said to this company, this is when we had probably be about 40 salons or 30 salons. They felt as though perhaps they needed a representative from that company that I was working for to come and do a seminar for them as a VIP client.
Right.
So they flew me to Germany to do a seminar in Germany. And Germany loved it so much, they spoke to Italy. Italy flew me down to Italy. Italy loved it so much, they spoke to Brazil. I went to Brazil. Brazil loved it. I went to Argentina. And so this is what started happening in my career. All of a sudden, I was this new kid on the block. So all of a sudden for Wella, I started literally traveling the world for them. And I've worked with Wella now for 27 years. And really, I started traveling the world for them as an educator. And my shows got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think people love the Patrick Cameron experience, which is what you were talking about. And I'm very much a showman. And so what started to happen was that really it was about the showman Patrick Cameron. They had lots of other educators, but they only had one Patrick Cameron who could whip up a crowd into an emotional frenzy, who could get a standing ovation, who could really sell tickets. And so I was the one that started doing that. And so when Trend Vision started, which is one of the biggest hair events in the world, and they had something like, I think the first Trend Vision, we had something like 70 countries from around the world coming to it. They asked me, Patrick, would you host it? And I asked them why. I said, why would you like me to host it and not do the hair? And they said, Patrick, the reason we want you to host it is because you are possibly the only hairdresser in the world that all the hairdressers know and feel safe with. Yeah. And they feel like I would look after them, and I would look after them on the stage, and they would feel confident and comfortable with me being the center of this huge show. So from the very beginning, and now I've hosted almost all of them now, it really it's gone amazingly well, where now I host Trend Vision shows around the world. And it's because of that. It's because of my brand identity that hairdressers trust me and have learned to love me.
But how do you do this? Don't you get nervous before going on the stage? Any jitteriness? There's so many people, and all of them are hairdressers, and
Yes.
they're your peers probably. But you own it like the king. How do you do that?
I think I always laugh, and I always say, people often say to me, Patrick, are you nervous? And I'll go, no, I'm not nervous. And they'll say, why? I said, well, it's their fault. They asked me to do it, you know. And if you notice, when I'm doing it, you'll notice that I make it my own. I have a script in general, but I make the script my own. You know, I go through these scripts with a big felt pen and I scratch things out, and I take this out and I take that out, and until I've got something that looks human, until I've got some information that looks human, that looks like what they would want to know. And also too, I'm very aware that my audiences often, and this is the key point, don't speak English. So what I have to do is I have to create that energy that comes through me so that they can feel as though they're part of this amazing event, because the power of energy and love just washes out to everybody in the audience so that they all become part of what we're doing. And that's my gift for Wella.
Right. So before we move on to the next question, I would like to tell our audience that Patrick Cameron is here with us today. So if you have any questions for him, please leave them in the comment section and we'll definitely take them up, time permitting. Here is your chance to get styling tips for long hair from the god of long hair dressing. So don't miss out. Please drop in your questions. All right, now Patrick, let's move on to your next most favorite thing, which is education. So how is life as a hair educator for you?
Okay, so life as a hair educator, as you all know, I've spent literally, as I say, 28 years traveling the world educating. And of course, with the pandemic, the coronavirus, the whole thing has changed. Life has changed. Now you'll see that I'm sitting in a studio here, and you'll see that I'm lit and I have beautiful lighting on me and I have a background and everything. So what happened was, over the last few years, over the last 5 or 6 years, I have been teaching myself, and my team have been teaching me, and we've been teaching each other how to work on our digital platform. So we started a e-learning platform probably about 4 years ago. We have now over 200 hairstyles on this e-learning platform, all step by step. I started filming them. I started editing all the videos. And so we started shooting our own collections. So bit by bit, we started having this power of being able to do a lot of things in-house. So when the pandemic happened, I had all of this set up in my home, which I've always had for the last couple of years. So what I started doing is I started reaching out to hairdressers all over the world and sending messages of goodwill, messages of concern, messages there, just sort of staying connected, really. So now I launched 7 weeks ago my Patrick Cameron live TV every Monday. So for your viewers, every Monday, 10:30 UK time, go on Instagram or Facebook. It's on both. And I have 1 hour television show, which is a lot of fun, and hairdressers all over the world watch it. Our last viewing, we had 83,000, I think, that watched it over a period of time. So please hook into that. And also to, you know, this has given me an opportunity to relook at my career, because, you know, I'm getting to a point in my career where I don't want to travel as much. You know, I don't want to leave London as much. So this new experience of webinars and online work is really coming at a time in my life where I'm embracing it. I'm truly embracing it. And the quality of what we put out now is so high when I look around at what people are doing. And we've given it so much effort that people now from all over the world are hooking into our learning platform.
Right. So it's a great way to move ahead with the times. Yes, digital is the future of hairdressing, and now is the right time with the lockdown and stuff going on. It's the right way forward.
But hey, listen, but didn't we say at the beginning of this interview, take opportunities when you see them and be open. Be open.
Absolutely. So a lot of hairdressers who have, say, had a decade or more of experience in hairdressing and working on the floor, they are looking at education as the next step forward. But looking at you, I realize that only being an educator is not enough. You need to have that little bit of showmanship. So what advice would you give to aspiring hair educators?
Okay. You know what? It's so interesting you say this, because I was only having this conversation yesterday with some friends of mine, because they said they watched my show and they're not hairdressers. They said they loved the show. They can't wait till next week. And I think what I've realized is this: when an educator works on stage, in the flesh, in front of an audience, it's very three-dimensional. So the audience is not only buying what you're doing, they're looking at you as a person. You're moving from left to right. You're moving your model. Everything is very three-dimensional. So even if you're not a great presenter, even if you are someone who's quite shy, or you don't have a big personality, often the hairdressers will watch you because of the three-dimensional experience. Well, I have to tell you, it's all change. This is the same as literally silent movies to talkie movies. This is the same. You can't rely on just your skill to engage an audience with your social or with your webinars. You absolutely have to give them your passion. You have to give them honesty, and you have to give them great education that they can use. Because ultimately, it's not about you. It's about your viewer. And this is where a lot of people get lost. They get lost in this, you know?
Yeah. So yes, engagement with your students is important, and talking is important. Right. So going back to Indian hairdressers, what do you think is lacking in them? Why are they not able to make it big?
I think language is a big thing. Language barrier is a very big thing. That confidence, I think, to become a big international hairdresser, you have to be able to speak English. And I mean that with every respect, because trust me, I don't think English is the best language in the world, but it's the language of the modern world, you know? And so I think when you know, people in China will understand someone speaking English, someone in wherever in Brazil will understand someone speaking English. So the language is a very, very big thing. I truly believe that we live in an international world. I would love to see more Indian hairdressers, famous hairdressers, break into the market, break into the international market. Uh, because I think the standard out there, there's some incredible hairdressers out there that are doing amazing work. But really, it's about wanting it as well. You know, because I think one of the interesting things in India, there is a class system. There is a system where, and it's the same in England, same in a lot of countries. But sometimes when you elevate yourself to that position of a very successful salon, a very successful hairdresser, you have to also look at your humanity and what you want to give to someone. Because just because you're successful, just because you're making money, doesn't mean anything to the viewer. The viewer wants to see your humanity. They want to see that you have that gift, that you're able to share what you're doing. You know, what you've got to be careful, and this is my advice to many people watching this, you must never, never talk to people and tell them what they should do. What you want is you want to gently bring people with you. Gently bring people with you on your journey, and then they'll listen.
Right. So connect with people rather than talking to them and telling them
Correct.
what to do. Great.
Don't tell. Don't tell.
Right. Going back to Indian hairdressers, what are their strengths that would give them an edge in an international arena?
Perfection. Perfection. The Indian hairdresser loves perfection. And I think their skill set and how they do things, from blow drying right through to cutting and dealing with this sort of hair, their long hair work, I've seen the most spectacular long hair work that they can do as well. But just remember, it doesn't always have to be exceptional work. You know, it doesn't have to be exceptional work. It has to be work that your general clients would want to wear, so your general public would feel comfortable with. So perhaps your general public may not be comfortable with an absolutely intricately, perfectly done head of hair. So a sense of freedom in the hair. There has to be more freedom, I think.
Do you think they should also be looking at doing more editorial styling and photo shoots?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we're talking about the old way, so perhaps the new way might be different on your social media. I think, you know, a lot of people are using Instagram and Pinterest and so on as their window now of expertise. So I think there's an opportunity there to get your work out there around the world. You've just got to look at the way that you're getting your work out there.
Right. I'm sure all the hairdressers who are watching us now really want to know some amazing tips from you about upstyling. So is there something that you would like to share?
What would I like to share? Okay, so whenever I'm working with long hair, whenever I'm educating with long hair, it's really important that you have a message in that style. So when I'm designing a hairstyle, I design it with a particular method. Now that method may be the way that I'm holding the hair. It may be the way that I'm clipping the hair, where I put my hair grips. It may be something as simple as that, so that I can have a very simple message inside my hairstyle. You've got to remember, your hairstyles are always designed, when you're educating, as inspiration. You want to help the hairdressers, so it's always about inspiration. So I always try and make sure there are some simple ideas and techniques in amongst the beautiful styling that you're doing. So it may be in the way you're pinning the hair, the way that you hold the hair when you're educating.
Right. So now, Patrick, let me see if our audience has left any questions, and
Yes.
we'll take them up quickly. A lot of them are agreeing with all the great advice that you've been giving us, and they love you. This is like a general message from everybody. They love you. Okay, so Maguire Jane is asking, do you think upstyling hair is something you have a natural flair for?
I think that's a great question. I think yes. I think you are right. I think people that do very well at it have a natural flair. But like all of our skills in hairdressing, whether it's colouring, perming, cutting, all of these skills can be learnt. So I say to every hairdresser on the planet, you all can do long hair. Yeah, but those people who have a natural flair, a natural talent towards long hair will always do better. The same as if you've got a natural talent towards coloring or a natural talent towards cutting. Just because of that talent, it doesn't mean to say you can't do everything. Yeah, so yes, natural talent will always win out, but please, everybody can be empowered to do it.
Right. Next question is by Alka. She's asking for suggestions for hairstyles for a round face shape with shoulder length hair.
Well, it's rather hard because obviously I haven't got a mannequin here. I'm not doing hair, so it's very hard to share with you. So often on a round shape, I always want to take off areas so that I can slim the face down. So I'm very, very aware of the amount of hair that's left around the face. So I might put soft pieces down around the front of the face just to try and create that beautiful oval that we're looking for. So it's all about that, and also the proportion of the hairstyle to make sure the hairstyle's not too round, because you don't want a round on top of a round. So really it's about elongating, keeping it a little bit sort of smaller and tighter into the neck area, and keeping the hair very soft around the front to create that beautiful oval shape.
Right. Seema Jerajani is asking how to handle bridal hairstyling during and after the pandemic, after the lockdown.
Oh, well, I mean, at the end of the day, I think, Seema, it's going to be very hard to know when that's going to happen, because of course one of the big things after lockdown is going to be social gathering, and where the social gathering is going to be this year. We're going to allow, I mean, you know, God bless, you know, the Indian weddings, why have 3 people when you can have 3,000?
Absolutely.
So Seema, I'm not sure whether we're going to see a lot of that straight after the pandemic. So, you know, it's a hard question, I think. I think at the end of the day, continue doing what you're doing, continue offering a great service, and just do great hair, and just ride the situation. I think you're going to start seeing the advent of a lot smaller gatherings. And so I think there's going to be some big changes coming through.
But here's the thing, Patrick.
Professional by Wella.
Gathering, there will be pictures taken, and no bride wants to look bad on her wedding day, and
Correct.
She needs great hairstyles, you know, no matter how many guests are attending.
That's right, exactly. So that's why I'm saying to Seema, carry on doing great hair, carry on doing it, because you know what, you are absolutely
to look bad on her wedding day, and
Correct.
She needs great hairstyles, you know, no matter how many guests are attending.
That's right, exactly. So that's why I'm saying to Seema, carry on doing great hair, carry on doing it, because you know what, you are absolutely 100% correct. If these brides can't get it to the crowd in their wedding, trust me, they're going to get it to the greater crowd on social media. So yes,
Absolutely.
And I think more than ever, the photographs of the hair and of the look, the total look, are going to become even more important.
True. Next question comes from Ronald. She's asking, what are the guidelines to be a great educator? If you can give us some do's and don'ts.
Yep, the do's are, again, as I said earlier, become a great communicator. I think to be a great educator, you have to understand your craft. You have to understand what you are educating. And, you know, my advice often to educators is stay on message, stay on track. You know, don't waft off into all sorts of different directions. Find out what your message is, find out what your techniques are that you want to share, and share those. And remember, as an educator, you're not dealing with the same people all the time. So if you've got a great message and a great style or a few hairstyles, create those hairstyles over and over and over again to the different hairdressers. You don't have to keep on thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? What am I going to show? Because chances are the people that come to see you the next time never saw you the time before or the time before that. So my advice to new educators, stay on message, stay confident about what you're going to talk, and make sure you communicate it clearly, and that most importantly, it's something the hairdresser wants to see.
Right. The next question, I think, comes from looking at your curls. This lady wants to know how to manage the frizz in my curls.
I would say, you know what, I've had a lot of people ask me on social media over the last couple of weeks, Patrick, tell me about your curls. How do you do your curls? Well, you know what, I've done a little fact sheet now on how to do my curls. So please go on my Insta, ask my Instagram, could you give me the information for Patrick's curls? Because I have a special way of doing them that I think a lot of people find very, very interesting. I'll tell you very quickly, but it is available. And on my Instagram, all you've got to do is go to Patrick Cameron Hair. So I'm very easy to find. And that's my Facebook as well. But for me, it's a great diagnostic shampoo to suit your hair type. Then it's a light conditioner from mid-length down, condition, comb the conditioner through, rinse the hair thoroughly. Then I go back to the styling area. I take a heavy conditioner, a heavy cholesterol-y conditioner. I use System Professional by Wella. I use a repair mask or a hydrate. I put that on my hands and I drag it through my mid-lengths and ends, not on the roots, my hair, my mid-lengths and ends. And then I mix in with that my styling products. And now normally I mix in an oil and I mix in a mousse. Then I start to comb it all through. So I've got a really heavy mixture on my hair. I mean, a really heavy mixture. And then I diffuse or dry the hair, or I let the hair dry naturally. And then once I've dried the hair, almost up until I'd say 85 to 90% dry, I'll have to show you what I do. I literally turn my head upside down and I hit my head like this, not hitting my head, but hitting the curls. And by doing that technique, it shatters the curl that is set, and you get these beautiful individual curls.
Wow, that was one great routine you have in place.
But it's just natural. And once you've done it once, the next day, all you have to do is add a little bit of water. If you need a little tiny bit more styling product, you can. But in general, just let it dry naturally or diffuse it and away you go. So once you've curled it once, it actually just gets better and better.
So you think I can try this technique on my waves as well?
Well, no, this is for curly hair. So this is for hair that's very much like mine. On wavy hair, no, it would be too heavy on wavy hair. So that would be too heavy. Yeah.
Okay, so we have Armand Beasley also here watching us, and he is asking, how do you feel that you have evolved as an artist over the years?
That's a great question. I think I've evolved. I've evolved with the power of knowing who I am. I've evolved the power of knowing what am I good at, what is my brand, who am I, what is my brand. And I think that's the secret really, because I think when you're starting out and you're working, you are all things to all people, and you try to find your way through this. And what happens is when you become an educator, especially like me, and you're on the camera, you're talking to people day in, day out, you develop a sense of who you are as a person and how you can share that with other people. So for me, I truly believe my success is the power of communication. I'm not the best hairdresser in the world. I love it, and I love doing my beautiful hair. But there are many, many better hairdressers and amazing hairdressers out there. But what I am good at is communication. The power of communication will take you from here to here.
Great. That was a brilliant answer, and I'm really touched by your humility, Patrick. I mean, people call you the god of hairdressing, and yet you are thinking that there are other people who are better than you. This is amazing. Okay, I have a hypothetical situation for you. Tomorrow, you have to upstyle a bride. Okay, she's really nice, thick, long hair, and you're preparing your kit tonight. What all things would you put in your kit?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so my kit for my work, my bride, is always very, very simple. First of all, I pack always my little Patrick Cameron brush. This is it here. Okay.
Right.
So that's the thing.
Oh, this is the one you use for back combing, isn't it?
This is the one I use for back combing, for smoothing, for placing through. So I'm always using this. Yeah, always using this. Then what I do, just one moment. then
Yeah.
sorry, I didn't have this prepared. Then I'd take probably my long hair kit with all my different things in, with my,
Yeah.
I'd get my hair pads, everything that I need, I'd put into here. Then I would take my hot rollers. Now, normally hot rollers for me are really important because they bend the hair, they move the hair, they shape the hair that I would want. Or I would take whatever curling appliances I need if I was going to curl or straighten the hair or straightening. So I'd take those, but I would only take a few of those, one set or two sets of hot rollers. So I keep my product, my kit bag very, very light. Also, I would take my styling products with me, and
Yeah.
that'd probably be it, really, because sometimes, and most importantly, make sure you pack your talent, because your talent needs to be in there as well. But
Absolutely.
I think for me, it's about keeping it simple. And please do look. Now, one of the things that's been really interesting is in India, often a wedding can take the form of two different parties. Traditionally, you would have a traditional Indian wedding with a incredible sari, and might I say that the sari is one of the very few garments in the world that is just as relevant today as it probably was 2,000 years ago. It is the most incredible garment, and I think one of the very few garments in the world that's equally as important and just as beautiful today as it was many, 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 many hundreds of years ago. Yeah. So they would have a traditional wedding, and that traditional wedding would require a traditional veil. So you need things that really hold the hair up. And I'm just going to show you something very quickly.
Yes.
And that is this sort of thing here is incredible. This is a Patrick Cameron halo. They're amazing. And the reason they're amazing is because the hair grips just pin into them very, very easily. And you could use these one on top of the other. You can create beautiful shape, because when you've got a very heavy veil on the hair, you've got to make sure that it's supported beautifully. But at the same time, you want something that is very, very light so that the bride can wear it for the whole entire day and feel comfortable. So these sorts of things are amazing. And these are Patrick Cameron hair pads. You can only buy them off me. Do go onto my website. I'm easy to find, www.patrick-cameron.com. And we send these all over the world. We've sent many hundreds of these to India for many hairdressers around the country.
Great. So this is what the Patrick Cameron kit looks like. So all the hairdressers who are watching us now know what to put in their kit when they go for bridal hairdos. Patrick, we have time for one last question. So I'm going to quickly shoot it at you. What are your plans post-lockdown?
Okay, my plans are really to concentrate very much on my social. Please, to all of your viewers, we are going to be launching our Patrick Cameron live webinars in the next 2 weeks. It's going to be on my social, so you're going to see there how you can register and how you can get on for that. I'm going to be sharing with you my latest collection called The House of Luxury. And I promise you it is divine. The hairdressers will love it. I'm going to make sure that it's very clear, so you can see as I'm educating here, it's very clear, very step by step. And we'll be doing webinars for you. And these webinars, of course, will come live straight to your mobile phone, to your iPad, and so on. So this is a big step forward for us. And each week, again, as I say, live television every Monday, 10:30 UK time. Do tune into that. And also check out our e-learning platform, our Access All Area members. We have a special Patrick Cameron members club. And I know this will appeal to many of our viewers out there in India. And I'm updating beautiful new images all the time, step-by-step information. And we have over 200 amazing hairstyles for you, step-by-step, on this learning platform. So do check those out. So really that's my big push. And I think for the foreseeable future, I will not be traveling. I think personally, I probably will not be traveling this year at all. I think it will all be online. And I think you'll find all of the major product companies now will be doing webinars and online learning. Your big thing now, really for many of your viewers now, is please just choose the best ones. Choose ones that are beautifully put together, that are great for you. And I promise you, if you tune into mine, you're going to love them.
Great. So Patrick Cameron may not be traveling, but he will be available on your phones and your devices through his e-learning courses. So please avail of it as much as you can. I'm sure it's going to be great. Patrick, we hope to see you soon in India, if not this year, at least the next. And it was lovely having you here. I can't even tell you how thrilled I am to interview you once again and get to know from you your life story. Any parting words before we sign off?
Oh, my parting words is please all of you stay safe, stay sanitized, stay sane, because that's really important. But most importantly, guys, I truly look forward to meeting you in person one day when I do have that luxury of coming to India. Because as I said to you from the beginning of my interview, India is my spiritual long hair home. The Indian market is truly one of the few markets in the world that truly understands the importance of long hair. So to all of you from lockdown London, here in my home, I am sending you so much love. Yeah, so much love. And I look forward to meeting you all again very soon.
Great. Thank you so much to Patrick for joining us today. We love you all and we look forward to meeting you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.